Hello and good night. Welcome to another bedtime story. This story is meant to help you sleep or to relax your mind. Try and find a comfortable place, such as your bed or a soft chair. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes now. Try and let go of the day as we begin our tale. Tonight's story is The Emperor's New Clothes. Once upon a time, there lived an emperor who was so exceedingly fond of new clothes that he spent all his money on being well dressed. He cared nothing about his soldiers, ignored state matters, and had little interest in anything other than his wardrobe. Every hour of the day was scheduled around what he would wear. He had a coat for every hour and took great pride in showing off his outfits. People often said, "The emperor is in his dressing room," when anyone asked about him. The emperor's obsession with fashion was well known far and wide, and many tailors and merchants came to the palace to present him with the finest silks, velvets, and brocades. Yet the emperor always sought something new and more extravagant. He wanted to outshine all other monarchs and have clothes that would leave everyone in awe. One day, two swindlers arrived in the city. They had heard of the emperor's vanity and decided to take advantage of it. They presented themselves as master weavers and claimed to make the most exquisite fabrics imaginable. "Not only are our fabrics beautiful," they declared, "but they are also magical. They are invisible to anyone who is stupid or unfit for their position." The emperor was intrigued. "Such clothes would be perfect for me," he thought. "I could use them to discover who in my kingdom is foolish or incompetent. Yes, I must have such clothes." He immediately summoned the swindlers to his court. The two men bowed low before the emperor and began to weave their tale. They described their fabric as being finer than spider silk, more radiant than sunlight, and so light that it felt like wearing nothing at all. The emperor was enchanted by their words and decided to commission an entire wardrobe made from this magical cloth. "You shall have all the gold and silk you need," said the emperor. "Begin at once and spare no expense." The swindlers set up two looms in a grand hall of the palace and pretended to work day and night. They demanded the finest silk and gold thread, which they promptly pocketed, while their looms remained empty. They busied themselves with great enthusiasm, moving their hands as if weaving, and describing the fabric's beauty in vivid detail to anyone who visited. After a few days, the emperor grew curious about their progress. He sent his most trusted minister to inspect the work. "Go and see how the weavers are coming along," he instructed. "Bring me a report of the fabric's magnificence." The minister, a wise and honest man, approached the looms with confidence, but when he entered the hall, he saw nothing on the looms. His heart sank. "Can I be that unfit for my position? Am I foolish?" he thought. Not wanting to admit that he saw nothing, he smiled and nodded approvingly. "How splendid! What colors! What patterns!" he said. though he saw nothing at all. The swindlers beamed. "We are glad you like it. Please tell the emperor how marvelous the fabric is." When the minister returned to the emperor, he praised the work of the weavers. "Your Majesty, the fabric is beyond compare. The colors are vibrant and the patterns are intricate. It will be the most extraordinary outfit you have ever worn." The emperor was delighted and sent another official to inspect the progress. This official, too, saw nothing on the looms, but was afraid to admit it. He returned to the emperor with glowing praise for the magical fabric. The swindlers, now emboldened by their success, demanded more gold, silk, and jewels. They continued their charade, pretending to weave and describing the fabric in increasingly extravagant terms. Word of the magical cloth spread throughout the city, and everyone was curious to see it. They whispered among themselves, wondering if they would be able to see the fabric, or if they would be revealed as fools. Finally, the emperor decided it was time to view the fabric himself. Accompanied by his ministers and courtiers, he entered the hall where the swindlers were hard at work. The two men gestured grandly to the empty looms, describing the cloth in exquisite detail. The emperor stared at the looms, his eyes widening in disbelief. He saw nothing. "Am I a fool? Am I unfit to be emperor?" he thought, panic rising in his chest. But he dared not admit the truth. Instead, he smiled and nodded. "How magnificent!" he exclaimed. "The fabric is truly unparalleled. It shall be made into a suit for the grand procession tomorrow." The ministers and courtiers, not wanting to appear foolish, all agreed enthusiastically. "Yes, Your Majesty, it is stunning, a masterpiece." The swindlers worked late into the night, pretending to cut and sew the invisible cloth. They announced that the emperor's new clothes were ready and helped him dress the next morning. They mimed placing the garments on him, fastening imaginary buttons, and adjusting the invisible fabric. "These clothes are so light and comfortable," they said. "You'll feel as though you're wearing nothing at all." The emperor admired himself in the mirror, though he saw nothing but his undergarments. "I must not let anyone know that I cannot see these clothes," he thought. "It would ruin me." When the emperor stepped out into the courtyard, the entire city had gathered to see his new clothes. The courtiers, who feared being exposed as fools, began to cheer and applaud. "How elegant! How regal!" they cried. "The emperor's new clothes are a marvel." The townspeople, hearing the courtiers' praise, echoed their statements. "What beautiful clothes! What an extraordinary suit!" they shouted. None of them dared to admit that they saw nothing, for fear of being thought stupid or unfit for their roles. The emperor beamed with pride and paraded through the streets, his head held high. The procession was grand, with banners waving and music playing. Everyone cheered and clapped as the emperor passed by, though they whispered among themselves, "I see nothing at all, do you?" Finally, a small child tugged at his mother's sleeve and said loudly, "But the emperor isn't wearing any clothes." The mother hushed her child, but the words had already been heard. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. "Did you hear what the child said? He's right. The emperor isn't wearing anything." Soon, laughter erupted. The townspeople began to point and chuckle, and the emperor realized with horror that they were telling the truth. He was indeed wearing nothing at all. His face turned bright red, but he resolved to finish the procession with dignity. The emperor held his head high and continued to walk, pretending that nothing was amiss. His courtiers, too, acted as though everything were perfectly normal, though they were secretly mortified. The swindlers, meanwhile, had slipped away with the gold, silk, and jewels they had collected, and they were never seen again. From that day forward, the emperor learned a valuable lesson about vanity and pride. He became a wiser ruler, focusing less on his appearance and more on the well-being of his people. The tale of the emperor's new clothes became a legend in the kingdom, a reminder of the importance of honesty and the courage to speak the truth, even when no one else will. The end. Thank you for listening to this bedtime story. I hope you enjoyed the tale tonight. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more audiobooks and tales to come. Until next time.